In this short video, let us explore functional interfaces. So, what are functional interfaces? Functional interfaces support lambdas and they form the basis for the functional programming support in the Java language and the library. So there are four fundamental or essential functional interfaces supported in the Java library, and let us see how to use those four very essential functional interfaces and also create our own functional interface. Okay, let's start with a very simple example, and let's say hello and create a lambda out of it. Right now, if you make this as a variable, and you can observe that it becomes a supplier. So this is a hello returner, right? So hello returner dot get, and let's print the value, so it will always return hello. So no big deal, but what in this lambda, the simple lambda that we have seen here, is that it doesn't take any input and returns string as the output. So the argument you see here for supplier, it is the return type for the supplier, as you can see here. So we can go ahead and see this inside the java.util.function supplier, and here it is. You can see that it gets a result. It doesn't take anything as an argument, and you can see the functional interface annotation here. Right? So a functional interface is an interface with only one abstract method. It cannot have more than one method in case of a functional interface, and the lambda implements this interface. Right. Now let's come back here. So we have seen the first scenario where you have a supplier. So it uh, it um, it takes nothing. Supplier, it takes nothing as argument and returns something. For example, we have this lambda which returns a string as the return value. Alright, now let's consider our next example. Let's say we have a string being passed as an argument, and we want to convert that string into, always let's say, into uppercase, right? And want to turn this back, and let's create a variable for this, and you can see that the variable is function string of string. The first string is the argument for the lambda, and the second string is a return type of the lambda. So let's give a name for this, to upper. Right now let's call this to upper with the apply method and say hello world and print it out, and you could see that it is successfully worked, and this lambda got called. Let's quickly see the function interface. It applies the function to the given argument. So it says the type T, the first argument, and returns the result which is of type R. In our case, we have both the argument and return type as string. Right? So that is our second important functional interface. Function, it takes type T as argument and returns object of type R as result. So in this case, for example, we have a string as an input, as an argument, and we return a string as an output. Alright, so let's select this, delete it, and create our third important functional interface. Let us simply print the hello world, whatever we are getting, right? And print it out. And in this case, let's not take okay, or we can take an input here and pass this as the argument. So in other words, it only takes an input and it doesn't return anything. So what's the variable type here? It's a consumer. So it's a string printer, right? So let's print something. Let's call this and say accept what? Hello world. And you could see that the lambda accepted the given input and printed it as an output, right? That's the third important functional interface, which is a consumer. And in this case, okay, it takes an input, so it takes or consumes some input, but doesn't return anything. So in this case, we got a string as an input and we did not return anything as an output. Let's quickly see the consumer interface. So it performs the operation on the given argument. It takes the t as an input and doesn't return anything, which is a void return type. Let us see the last example. The fourth key functional interface that you need to know is predicate. So when do we need predicate? Let us say we have a string str as passed as a lambda argument, and we are checking if str is blank and empty. So this returns true or false as the output. So let's find the var for this. Oops, 1 minute. Dot var, and this is the one, and you can see that it's a predicate. So let's see if this works, and test if this is blank and empty and print the return value. And you can see that it is true, and if we give something like this which is not empty, then it returns false. So this is predicate. So let's quickly see the definition of predicate. So the predicate takes the input argument and returns a boolean value, testing something, whatever the condition that is given in the lambda. So these are the four functional interfaces that you need to know. It takes an argument and returns a boolean value. So in this case, for example, we got string as an input and return boolean as the output. So supplier, because it supplies things, it doesn't take anything and returns something as output. So type T, for example, right? And function takes something as input and some other type as the output. A consumer takes something, returns nothing, and a predicate checks for a condition and returns a true or false. And for any of this, you can create your own functional interface. For example, let's write a functional interface called checker. Right? We don't have anything called checker here, so we'll get an error. And let's create a quick interface called checker. So what does a checker do? It checks for a given input and returns a boolean as the output. Let's call the method as check and take string str as the input, right? And let's mark it as a functional interface. Let's go back and see that this code is working and the method name is check, and we are running this code and the same code will work as before. So there's nothing magic in these lambdas, except that to simplify our task, they have been already implemented in the Java library in the java.util.function package. Yeah, that's it. Explore this programs and try it out yourself. Bye for now.